In this video, I'm gonna cover how I price my Etsy print-on-demand products as a 7-figure Etsy seller. Now, when it comes to pricing, the biggest lever that we actually can pull when it comes to sales is our pricing. And why is that? Well, in my experience, it's been that the lower price you have, the more sales you do. Whereas the higher price you have, the less sales you do, but the more profit you actually make. So what does this actually give us like in real time? Well, on marketplaces like Etsy and Amazon and so forth, one of the most important metrics to have is a great rank. What is a great rank? Well, a great rank is when you are placed really high up in search. Let's say, for instance, that someone searches for cardiac nurse shirt. If someone searches for that specific search term on Etsy and you are at the top of the search page, that means that you will have a higher likelihood of actually getting the sale. And in order to get a good rank, the most important metric that they actually go for that basically determines all rank is sales, which is why in the beginning, I always use break-even pricing. So if we get a lot of sales in the beginning, but we don't earn that much profit, we still get the rank. And if we just bump up the price later, we will still keep the rank and hopefully and usually sell at a little less volume, but really making profit with the whole listing. So when I list something, I tend to list them at break-even pricing. Now, what do I mean when I say break-even pricing? Well, if we just take a look here on Printify, one of the main products that I've actually sold during my whole Etsy journey is the Vela Canvas 3001, and it's still selling to this very day. It's a tried and true item that just works. I tend to use Monster Digital as my print provider for this, generally. Now, we want to see what the cost is here so we can figure out what a break-even cost is. So the cost for this shirt is, let's see, take an Excel here. It's 9.13 plus shipping. And shipping is 4.75. So this shirt costs $13.88. If we then go here to Etsy and we use the Everbee calculator here, we just put that in as the cost. So 13.88. When I think of break-even pricing, I always want to ensure that I have some kind of buffer if anything happens, like if anything happens with ads, if there's any issues with any customers. So I always want to see a net profit, or basically I want to see a gross profit of the item. So once something has sold on Printify, and like you got the sale from the customer, you bought the item on Printify, the gross profit that you're left with is, I want to see that to be between $2 to $4. So let's say that we price this maybe at $19.99. That could work for sure. Let's see here. That might be a bit high, so maybe even $18.99. This would be a great break-even profit to have, because then we have between $2 to $4 in net profit, and just to ensure we're breaking even on price if anything happens with the customer. So when I list my items, I would list it at $18.99 so I can hopefully give the listing the biggest chance to actually get sales in the beginning. Because there's also one more caveat to when you list something on Etsy, and that's that every listing that actually gets listed, they actually get a boost in search initially. And I think this is because Etsy just want to try it out and see if it actually gets sales. So you get this boost in the beginning. If you also have it at a break-even price, that means that you have the highest likelihood of actually getting sales if they like your design. If you rank everything, pricing is a factor of the actual offer, but the main thing that they actually need to want is the design. So if you don't have the design yet, that will still be like the most important thing to actually get a sale. But once you have that, the biggest lever to actually get sales in the beginning is your pricing. That's the easiest thing to pull on. Now, so we've determined our break-even pricing here. We'll list something and then we'll list it at $18.99 in order to have the biggest chance of actually getting a sale in the beginning. Now, when a listing has achieved either 10 to 15 sales, or it has achieved a 50% visibility score on Everbee, that's when I actually push it to profit pricing. Now, before we go to what profit pricing actually is in like practice, if I just take a look at this listing, for instance, let's just go to this one right here. So there's two metrics that I always track this off of. And that's that, like, if this visibility score here is at least 50%, this one is at 48%, but basically if it's at 50% or the listing itself has achieved 10 to 15 sales, if it's achieved one of those metrics, then I bump it up to profit pricing. Because I've just found that sometimes you get ranked really fast and under 10 sales. However, sometimes you have like really low visibility score and a lot of sales. So if a listing hits either of those metrics, like either a 50% visibility score here on Everbee, or it achieves 10 to 15 sales, that's when I push it to profit pricing. And what is profit pricing? Well, if we go back to the calculator here again, the cost of the shirt is 13.88 cents. Now, I want to see a 30 to 40% gross margin when I do profit pricing. I'm not a big fan of pricing low when something has actually like achieved rank. So let's say that we price this maybe at like $24.99. That's a 33% margin, and that's perfect for this kind of listing. If we do a Vela Canvas 3001, we might even want to do $25.99. So we're at like 35% net gross margin when you basically purchase the item of Printify and the profit that you're left with there. Honestly, in my opinion, I wouldn't call this a net profit margin, because a net profit margin is the margin that you're left with when all costs are calculated. So I would see this as a gross profit margin personally, which is why I refer to it as that. But generally, $24.99 or $25.99 is what I would price the item at once it's actually a gained rank, because that's what I would bump it up to when it comes to profit pricing. If you use a paid shipping model, this would include the shipping on the price. So basically just the final price that the customer pays apart from the sales tax. The sales tax is added on top of this price. But if you use a paid shipping model, this would basically include like the shipping plus the base sale price of the shirt. If you use a free shipping model, this would just be the end final cost, including free shipping. It's just important to make a distinction that this should be like the end cost that the customer pays, whichever model you use for shipping in your store, whether it's free shipping or paid shipping. Now, this can be a big hurdle to actually like organize on Etsy, because like when you have like different selling listings here and there, and you have listings on profit pricing, listings on break-even pricing, you have no idea really on which listings you should like bump up the profit pricing or not in an easy way. At least it can seem like that, but there is a super easy way to organize this on Etsy. So if we just go to our shop here, we have sections. We have these sections here that we can use. So let's see here. What we can do here is just, we can add a section in our store. We can name it whatever we want so that we personally know that this section only holds our break-even listing items, and this other section here only holds our profit pricing listings. In my opinion, everything happens in search. Like someone searches for something here using the search bar, and depending on what comes up in search, they then purchase, which is why I don't think, in my personal opinion, that sections really matter, because no one really goes into a shop. Because in my experience, I've had really no one that says that they're buying it off of my shop. They're just buying it off of Etsy with whichever shop they buy from. So, which is why I think it's a great way to just utilize the sections for your own benefit, so it's easy to organize your listings. So if we just go here and we add a section, we can just name this, for instance, maybe we want to be a bit sly about it, so that like other sellers probably don't want to like peek in and see that, okay, this is the person's profit pricing listings, this is the person's break-even pricing listings, and so forth. So maybe just call this, I don't know, BP maybe, for like break-even pricing, and then we can make another one that's like PP for like profit pricing, so forth and so forth, something like that. Then we add all of our break-even pricing listings into the break-even pricing section. Then once something actually hits the threshold for profit pricing, then we just take that listing and add it into the profit pricing section. It's so much easier to organize like this whole idea with pricing strategies like this, because then you can just watch over your break-even pricing section every day, and once something actually hits the threshold, you can just bump it up to profit pricing, and then you can just add it into the correct section in your Etsy store. But there's one big caveat to this too, and that's the actual pricing change itself. Now, we can use Etsy's own bulk pricing editor thing here. We can go here, and then you can press edit pricers. Now, this, in my opinion, is not an efficient way to use this, because this is like, for the whole listing, increase all your variations with either by an amount. You can decrease it by an amount. You can set a whole new amount for every single variation. You can do a percentage increase or a percentage decrease. Now, if you have like a 2XL and a 3XL and you don't want to increase it by like the same percentage as the other listings, or as like for instance the STXL sizes, then this doesn't really work. And in my opinion, it's always just been quite inefficient to use it this way, because it never really works seamlessly. So what I've always used myself is a software called Vela. It's a great software mainly for using their profiles. So here's how I use Vela in a simple and an efficient manner. So I mainly use their profiles, as I mentioned, and what you can do so many things with Vela, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed with the whole thing. but the main use that I have for it is their profiles. So for instance, this is my demo account with some demo listings, so please disregard these, but I've entered my listing, a listing here. What you can do here when you enter a listing is that you can actually, like, let's say that you have a listing on Etsy and it already has all your pricing and all your colors and everything like set. You don't want to create a profile from like the template in Vela from scratch. So what we can do here, I've entered one of my listings. What we can do here is that we can take all this info, like the prices, the sizes and the colors and everything, and we can press save as profile. And again, you can do so many things with Vela. So what I recommend here is that you only save the variations as a profile. So we just click variations here and let's just call this demo break-even pricing. What it then does in this case, it takes the variational info like the colors, the sizes, the prices and so forth, and it creates a template here in Vela. We can then go to our profiles, which is located here. Now you can see the actual template here. And as you can see, it says 0 listings connected. Because what it means basically, it just basically is a template in another software compared to Etsy. But if we want to connect this specific template to a listing on Etsy, that's when it will say that you have listings connected to it. So we go to edit. And again, like if this already is break-even pricing, then you don't have to do anything. So let's just say that it is, for instance, in this case. What we then do, because we have one already set, what we then can do is just copy this. So now we copied the break-even pricing template. What we now can do is actually just go in here and edit it so it fits our profit pricing. So let's just name this profit pricing and then just go into the prices here. This is in my native currency, which is Swedish kroner, as it's really important to have your native currency within your store. And what I mean when I say native currency, I mean like the currency that's in your bank account. That should be the one that's in your Etsy store. And I'll get into why later on in this video. But if we switch this to profit pricing, the first thing that we have to do, since I'm a Swedish seller, is that I have to convert the currency to kroner, which is my native currency. So let's say that we want to do $24.99 as our profit pricing. What we didn't have to and as I mentioned previously, let's say that we use a free shipping model for this. What we then want to do is that we want to include the sale within this price. So let's say, for instance, that we want to do $24.99. So after the sale, the customer should purchase the listing for $24.99, which means if we have a 30% off sale in this, we have to add the 30% discount sale on top of the item's price in order for them to actually buy the listing at $24.99. And if they want to buy, I'm not really good with head math, so I did this before the video itself, but if they actually want to buy the listing at $24.99, the listing has to be at $35.7, I think. Yep, so 35.7. And 35.7 in Swedish kroner is about 360 kroner. So let's just say 360. Then we just change these to 360. These are sorted basically by their color and their sizes, which means that you can just write it down like this. And then you can just write the price and then press tab to go to the next bar in line. Let's see here. And then the 2XLs are always a bit more expensive in comparison. Let's see here. The 2XLs, they cost 11.16 plus shipping, which is 4.75. So 15.91 instead. So okay, so 15, let's see here, sorry, 15.91 is the cost of a 2XL shirt. Let's say that we offer that one for, what is it? Maybe like $27.99 maybe. And then I just asked ChatGPT. I have to ask this in Swedish since I already did this whole conversation in Swedish and I'm not super good with head math. So let's see, so $39.99 should be like the before the sale cost, which is like 400 Swedish kroner. So then I just have it say 400 in the 2XL bar here. And then the 3XL costs $13.01, $17.76. And we can maybe price this at $29.99. Yep, $29.99 would be perfect for that. And then the price should be 42.84 in order to use that. So that's basically 430 Swedish kroner. So we'll just write 430. And there we go. Now we have our profit pricing profile all set. Let's see if we can save it or if it is bugged out. No, it has. It's all good. Let's update current profile. And now we have our profit pricing set. Since we already copied our break-even pricing listing from Etsy, we already have the break-even pricing set in this template. And now I could just edit the prices in my profit pricing template If I want to apply profit pricing to a listing that's achieved the threshold, then I can just apply this specific template to the listing, and it takes about 15 seconds. It just takes a small time to just set this up, just like I did here. But once you have it set, you can just apply this template to any listing that achieves the threshold. Or let's say that you want to put a listing on break-even pricing again, then you can just apply this specific break-even pricing template to the listing. So this is how I basically simply and efficiently change my prices on Etsy. I still find that this is the best way to do bulk edits with pricing, since you can just templatize everything here in Vela. Now, a key thing when it comes to using Vela is that you will probably lose your SKUs, because if there's any info in the actual variations that's changed, let's say for instance that you swap out a color. Let's say that you have, for instance, like a midnight blue color, and you change that out to navy instead within the template, and then you apply that template to a listing that basically have the midnight blue color in them. If it doesn't match exactly with all the info in it except for the price and the quantity, then what Vela actually will do is that it will take the template and erase all of the variations on Etsy and replace it with the template. What this means in practice for us is that it will erase our SKUs. So if we have SKUs linked between Printify and Etsy, those will be erased. So it's really important to just know that. In my honest opinion, we have it's 20% of our listings that actually sell. In my opinion, it's been 4% of listings that actually carry our store, and it's so much more worth it to actually just experiment with different pricing strategies and other type of experiments and lose our SKUs in order to get data on what actually works. So I wouldn't be hesitant to lose SKUs as you experiment, because you can always resync them later. And how I always resync items, I don't go into my Printify template and then just copy them over to Etsy. What I always do is that once I get an order and it's not synced, it looks like this, like these listings here, or sorry, these orders here. I get them, I just go into my Printify orders, and so I go here, and then I go into other orders, and then if I just go into this one, for instance, I can just basically then press my products here. I can just search up the specific template that I want to use, that I want to sync to this specific order. Let's say that it's this one, and then you choose the specific size and the color for the specific item that you sold. But then you get this kind of box that you can check here on Printify, and it says automatically import orders with this product variant. What this means is that once you get an order in that specific size and that specific color when it comes to a shirt, then Printify will actually add the SKU into your Etsy listing for that specific size and color. So let's say that they bought the navy in XL, for instance, and you connect the correct template to the Etsy order, and you basically choose the navy in XL with that specific design. If you press this button at the very end, Printify will automatically add the SKU into your Etsy listing for that specific size and color, so the navy in XL, which makes it super easy to just continuously sync orders as you get them, because then you can experiment, lose the SKUs, resync them like this without having to just do a whole day of just resyncing. You can just resync them as you go. And in my opinion, if you have streamlined, everything is basically correctly labeled in Printify and easily correct labeled in Printify, it's really easy to just search up templates and find them as you go and just resync them later on. And as a bonus tip, I also just want to ensure, because I get this comment kind of a lot, that some of you guys have another currency than the one that's in your bank in your Etsy store. And I really wouldn't recommend that for us foreign sellers. I live in Sweden and I've always had my native currency, which is Swedish kroner, in my Etsy store. The reason for that is that when you actually get sales and you don't have and you have switched the currency to another currency than the one that's in your bank, then you will actually incur a 2.5% conversion fee. And that's a 2.5% conversion fee on all payouts to your bank, which is basically a 2.5% conversion fee on your gross revenue, which is huge. So if you just have the same currency like the one that's in your bank account and that's connected to Etsy, if you have the same currency that's in your bank account and you have that in your Etsy store, then you don't incur any conversion fees. And I would highly recommend to keep it like that, to not incur a 2.5% conversion fee on your gross revenue.